Honestly, I don't think I've been this excited about a new electric car since, well, probably since the Honda E. So clearly, I have a thing for cute super mini EVs, but this video, this is a little bit different because this is a video I've been waiting to make for 17 years. And if you stick around, you'll find out why later in the video. But for now, this is it. This is the brand new Renault 5. You're watching Top Gear. And if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you do so now. Go on then, have a proper look. Right, so let's get these headlines ticked off nice and early, and we start with the most important one, price. Now, we don't have exact figures, but Renault promises us that when it comes to the UK, it's gonna cost from around £25,000, which is a rare surprise when it comes to pricing. Now, obviously that's gonna be for the slightly lower powered, slightly smaller battery version, but still, hats off to Renault. In terms of power, all versions have a single motor on the front axle, front wheel drive, and you can choose from 3 power levels: 150 horsepower, 120 horsepower, and 95 horsepower. I'm told the lowest of those, the 95 horsepower version, won't be coming to the UK. If you go for the highest power version, 150 horsepower, it will do 0 to 62 in under 8 seconds and a top speed of 93 miles an hour. Now, the battery, you've got 2 choices there. The bigger one is 53 kilowatt hours and has a range of around 250 miles, or the smaller battery, 40 kilowatt hours, has a range of about 186 miles an hour. In terms of charging, DC charging, the fastest charging rate you can get, 100 kilowatts, which isn't fantastic, but look at it like this. You can charge from 15 to 80% in about 30 minutes. And the big story is bi-directional charging capability. It means that this car can feed energy back into the grid. If you keep it plugged into your wall box at home, it will charge up at off-peak times. And then when there's high demand on the grid, it can actually feed the energy from the battery back into the grid, sell it back to the grid, which could significantly reduce your energy bills. And who doesn't want that? You do need a special energy tariff and a special wall box, but a very nice feature indeed. And then we get to weight. So if you go for the bigger battery, 1,450 kilograms. If you go for the smaller battery, 1,350 kilograms. And get this, you can order your Renault 5 with a tow bar because it can tow up to 500 kilograms. So the Renault 5, ladies and gentlemen, the perfect tow car if you have a very, very small caravan like that. I'm guessing there are 2 types of reaction occurring right now. Our older viewers' heartstrings are probably being tugged at by the Renault 5's throwback styling, as they recall the balmy days of youth. And then there's everyone else under the age of 35 thinking, yeah, this is a decent looking little electric super mini, but what the hell is a Renault 5 and why should I care? Well, this next section's for you.
Qui durera toujours. La vie est pleine de mystères et nos destins ne changent pas. Mais peut-être un beau jour, l'amour qui durera toujours m'embrassera comme un prince charmant et arrêtera le temps.
Ah, la joie de vivre, la vie en rose, les pommes de terre. Few cars are as quintessentially French as this one, and personally, I'm bonded to it for life, because back when I was 17, the Renault 5 was my first car. We called it Bertha for reasons I can't quite remember, but what I do remember is it broke down outside McDonald's on the Wandsworth roundabout on the day I passed my test. Great days. The car I owned was a 1985 Mark II GTL, 1.4 litres and 59 horsepower of pure mayhem. The flying bogey we have here is a venerable Mark I, a 1978 TL with a 44 horsepower, 1 litre engine and a 4-speed manual. Fast, this thing is not, that speed would come later in life for the Renault 5 with the mad as a box of frogs legs, mid-engined homologation special R5 Turbo in 1978, the R5 Gordini sold in the UK from 1979, known as the Renault 5 Alpine elsewhere, and the more accessible Mark II GT Turbo in 1985. Accessibility and fun. That's what this car was all about. It was one of the first to use a hatchback design, first patented by Renault back in the 60s with the R16, and it sold like absolute hotcakes. This Mark I was on sale between 1972 and the mid-80s, and in that time was pretty much constantly the best-selling car in France, and globally, across the same period, it sold 5.5 million units across 5 continents. To drive, well, let's just call it period correct, shall we? I absolutely love this spindly steering wheel in front of me that doesn't seem to have much to do with the front wheels at all. The suspension is very soft. There is comedy body roll going on, but look, it's just such a gorgeous, pretty little thing. 30,000 miles on the clock, and this one's been fully restored, so it is a proper late 70s time warp. And it's precisely that, those stubby proportions and styling signatures that Renault's trying to tap into with this new one, not the suspension or steering, which is a relief. Okay, the big question then, has Renault done justice to the style of the Renault 5 original, but perhaps more importantly, to the 2021 Renault 5 concept? And the answer, well, it has to be a big fat yes, doesn't it? Renault claims in its press material that this car is 95% faithful to the 2021 concept. No idea how they measured that, but to be fair, I got a picture of the concept up on my phone and I was comparing it, and really the differences are few and far between. I noticed that down here, this was an indicator repeater on the concept. This was a full squircle on the concept. It had slimmer wing mirrors, it had less chunky door handles, but honestly, that's pretty much it. The dimensions are pretty much bang on. It's 3.92 meters in length, which means it's a bit longer than a Twingo and a little bit shorter than a Clio, but hats off for sticking so faithfully to the concept. Right, I'm going to walk from front to back and point out the most interesting bits that I can. No point in looking under the bonnet, that's just all electrical gubbins, there's no frunk under there. This bit here, this is very cool. So inspired by the original bonnet vent that you found on the R5 Turbo, it's not a vent, obviously, it's a battery charge indicator with this funky 5 motif. The headlights, I can't show you right now because this is plugged in some sort of demo mode. When you approach the car and unlock it, gives you a little wink, and when you walk away, there's some sort of closing sequence as well. Come down the side of the car. Wheels. So every version of the Renault 5 gets 18-inch wheels. Clearly, a designer has put his foot down there. The lower spec versions, they get 18-inch steel wheels with hubcaps stuck on, inspired by the R5 Turbo. So they could be the ones to go for. These are exact replicas as the ones that they used on that 2021 concept. Colour. The Renault 5 has always been about being bright and colourful and cheery, and this launches with 2 super bright colours, pop yellow and pop green. You can also have the boring ones, black, white and a sort of midnight blue, but this is the one you want to go for. And look, you can even change this trim that comes off the wing mirror there and runs along this roof rail. This is red, but you can have gold and black if you want it to blend into the roof. The back seats, come on, let's have a look in here while I'm at the back door, because I've set that driving seat up for me. I'm 5'8", and not bad in the back. Plenty of headroom, but then I always have plenty of headroom on account of me being short. The issue here is that my feet don't have much room under the chair in front. If you are my size and you've got chunky trainers like these, you might want to ask the driver politely to raise his chair up slightly so you can slot your feet under that. Otherwise, plenty of space back here. And shout out to this headliner, this sort of waffle style headliner, which is a nod to the original Renault 5 from the 70s. Like that a lot. Okay, round the back. the most distinctive part of any Renault 5. Of course, you've got these massive vertical tail lights here running down the corners. You've got this full width bar on the concept that lit up. So they've obviously pinched some pennies somewhere along the line, but it looks fantastic. This, of course, was on the original hatchback, so this is such a feature of this car. This is really, for me, where they've leaned on that retro styling and made it look distinctive and unlike anything else out there. And the boot itself, not massive. I mean, what am I judging it by? The VW Polo's got 350 litres. This has got about 327, but you do have a little flap in the floor so you can stash your charging cable down there and it doesn't get tangled up with your groceries. Oh, and there's a 60-40 split rear seat, so you can fold that down and put bigger stuff in the back. Look at me giving consumer advice. Under the skin, it's based on a new AMPR small platform, formerly CMF BEV platform. Whoa, that's a lot of letters. So it shares a front axle with the Clio and Capture, but the multi-link rear suspension is rare in this class and not only benefits handling, but makes more space for the battery. Nimbleness should be enhanced further by an ultra-short steering ratio and a turning circle of just 10.3 metres. Welcome to the inside of the new Renault 5, and we begin with what is unequivocally the greatest single optional extra ever offered on a new car, and it's this wicker basket. And for those of you with very high definition screens, you may have already read that it says here porte baguette. That's right, this is designed specifically to carry your cylindrical French loaf and stop crumbs from going all over the interior. There is nothing more French than that. If only I had a baguette. Merci. Bon, right, what else can I tell you about this interior? I'm going to start with the seats because I absolutely love them. They are inspired, I'm told, by the original Renault 5 Turbo. I've really drunk the Kool-Aid, haven't I? All I care about is the fact that they are extremely comfortable, have just the right amount of bolstering, and I'm in love with this dirty mustard colour and the 5 motif on them. Fantastic stuff. In front of the seats here, you have this slightly odd 2-tier padded dashboard thing going on. Looks quite cool. Not entirely sure what it's for. Perhaps when you lean forward to take a bite of your baguette and I apply the brakes sharply, you don't smack your head on the dash. Who knows? Moving over here, we have these quite cool air vents. They pick up the motif from those front LED lights in the front grille. Speaking of motifs, this is your gear selector. Reverse, neutral, drive, and then your extra brake regen mode if you want more regen when you lift off the throttle. But this little piece here is inspired by a stick of lipstick. Yeah, not entirely sure why, but the French are nothing if not fashion forward. Right, what else? Screens. We need to talk about the screens. There's two 10-inch screens. The one in front of me, the instrument cluster, is slightly more widescreen in aspect, and then you've got this bigger, taller one in the middle of the dashboard. I quite like the way that this is sort of canted towards you and wraps around you, and because it's not a big car, none of the screens are actually that far away from you, so I feel like I could quite easily and comfortably play around with all the touchscreen functions on here. And hooray, you have physical buttons down here as well. I must now tell you about the final feature of the Renault 5, and it's this little blue fella on the screen here. It's called Renault. It's your avatar. It's your personal assistant, apparently. Basically, it will do all the classic voice assistant functions that we know and don't really love, but it's got Chat GPT built in as well, so it can answer slightly more complicated questions like, how do I connect my phone to the car, and how do I change a tyre? And you can even have more fluid conversations with it, like what should I have for dinner? How do I cook a spaghetti bolognese? What is the meaning of life? Perfect if you don't have any friends. So, another big question. Does this beat the Zoe, the car that it effectively replaces in the Renault range? Absolutely, 1,000,000% yes. It's better looking, it goes further, it weighs less. It's just a better electric car, and that's good news for Renault because it's about to turn on the retro EV afterburners with EV versions of the Twingo and the Renault 4. Do I want one? Yes, I do. I want to keep it for 10 years, and then when my 7-year-old daughter is old enough to drive, I want this to be her first car, just like her old man, so long as she calls it Bertha.